You're listening to the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast with Jody Livingston and Chris Trent, episode number 64.
I'm melting.
Welcome to the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast, helping you survive and thrive in youth ministry. And now, your hosts, Jody Livingston and Chris Trent.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the show today. Thanks for tuning in and listening wherever you are and wherever this finds you. Thanks for making this podcast today a part of your day. If it's your first time checking out the show, welcome. We are glad you're here. And if you are a returning listener, well, thanks for not giving up just yet. We appreciate it.
I feel like we're returning.
I feel like we're returning. That's right.
We're back. Like we're returning. We're back after a couple weeks. Yeah, it's all good.
Absolutely.
Talk about that in a minute,
yeah. So you can find us on the Twitter sphere at Jody Livingston. That's Jody, and at Chris Trent. That's Chris with a C-H. I don't know why I say that. I just feel like if I have to clarify my name, I should clarify yours. And
I have two first names. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Two first names.
I don't.
Some people call me Trent. I think we talked about it on other episodes.
Mine called you Trent like the whole episode.
Right. So, yeah, man. Good times.
Show notes page today. All the links and resources we mentioned, you can find on the show notes page at thelongerhaul.com/episode 064. thelongerhaul.com/episode 064. And as always, if you're finding this podcast helpful, enjoying it maybe even, we would love for you to subscribe to it, either through iTunes or your favorite podcast player, so that you can get the episodes every time they come out.
Good stuff. So we have shout outs, man. I've got some shout outs. I got one big shout out. We're just going to do one shout out. You and I talked about this. We got one big shout out. And it's all tied to the fact that it's the episode that we're doing right now. So we got a major shout out to one of our Longer Haul Youth Ministry podcast group members, right? Sam.
Short name on that.
Sam Kramer. And Sam, I think we debated on how to say your last name. We think it's Kramer, or maybe we don't think it's Creamer.
No, but that makes
and I don't think it's Kramer.
No, I'm going to go with Kramer.
Makes me think of Seinfeld, regardless. So yeah. But anyway, Sam came up with a great idea. He asked us on the. He threw out an idea for us to do this episode on parenting seminars and how to do parenting seminars, some ideas related to that. And we thought that was a great idea. So we started talking about it. And we were like, yeah, let's roll with that. And let's just go ahead and knock it out, because especially thinking ahead to, end of the summer, starting around the beginning of the school year, I think it would be a great time to do some of this stuff. And so it'd be something to really think about now so that you go ahead and get on the calendar. So Sam, shout out to you, man. Thanks for jumping in and being a part of the group and contributing like you do, man.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it. So good times.
So we're back. We've been gone a couple weeks. It's been a couple weeks since we had an episode. And
catching up too, man. I've been like worn out. But what have you been doing? You were gone last week.
Yeah, I was gone last week.
I was gone 2 weeks.
You were gone the week before.
So you were at camp last week.
I was at camp last week, and I survived it. Yay!
Yeah.
And we made it back. Good week. Always.
So you were at the Ridgecrest facility up in North Carolina?
In Black Mountain. It's beautiful. Yeah, love Ridgecrest.
I love that place. That's where I trusted Christ. I think we maybe talked about that before, but that back in 1987 I
don't like the trail that you have to take to get to Rick. Look, I don't wear like a fancy Apple Watch or anything, or I just have actually a G-Shock watch that because I break everything. But on my phone, I have my phone in my pocket and it's tracking my steps.
Yeah.
Thursday.
How many steps?
This is just Thursday. Okay.
It's a spread out camp. It's beautiful, but it's spread out big time.
And there's no direct way to get anywhere.
Yeah, no. And there's hills all over the place.
So Thursday was like 16,000 steps.
What?
No. 104 floors flights I climbed. Going up and down that trail.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, my calves were so sore when I got back.
That's like Disney World steps for me, man. I get like 16,000.
It was a great week. I slept amazing when I got back.
Yeah,
it was a good week. Worship, man, was good. Teaching was good. Solid. How was Dallas?
Dallas was great. Dallas mission trip. We went out to Dallas, Texas, and every morning we were spread out at a bunch of different mission organization type places, food banks, Shoes Forth and Soul, some things like that. And then every afternoon we rendezvous at Mission Arlington, which is there between Dallas and Fort Worth. They have a humongous apartment ministry that they do. So we go out and do what's called Rainbow Express. It's like these backyard Bible club type things. So my kids are all assigned to different teams, and man, it is awesome. I mean, it is really such a great way, even for middle school students, to just to get that first step into hanging out with people and actually sharing the gospel with them. So it was phenomenal, man. I had 20 students of my students that led someone to Christ for the first time.
That's awesome.
Which is phenomenal. You know, we were talking about a middle school kid that's never done that before, that shared the gospel. We had trained for that moment and everything. And these are legit stories. That's, you know, what was cool about it is it's not like some like, hey, do you want to trust Jesus? Yeah. Okay. Count. You know, no, it was like the stories that were being told and the conversations that were being had. It was cool to see how God used middle school students to do this.
They're fearless.
And I'm telling you, man, the Holy Spirit can work in the life of a 7th grader just as much as he can a 40-year-old. So,
love it.
So man, it was awesome. But man, I slept on a air mattress all week. And took showers in shower trucks. Dude, my bed was swank. Yeah, but you know, came back to you know, and for a week I had a nice, cool house. But via the intro just a minute ago, I'm sitting in a warm house right now because my AC's out. But it's all good, man. We're just gonna press through, and
at least it's not in Dallas. It's not Dallas heat.
Get a brand new AC on Thursday. But my AC lasted like 23 years in my house, dude. So that's awesome.
That's a long time.
And now I will be able to operate my new AC from my phone.
Just like your doorbell and everything else.
It's not worth the price, but I'm having to pay for it. But anyway, it is what it is. And I'm not the only one that's ever had to do it. So goes life
from your watch? That's the question.
You know, I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I don't know if there's an app on my Apple Watch. I'll have to check that out. So
that'd be sweet.
Yeah. Not on a G-Shock, you can't. But
no, I can't do anything on a G-Shock to tell the time and the date.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's literally, so I'm a creature of habit on some of this stuff, like little funny things. Like, because I break watches like a champ. Like, I go through watches like crazy, except for the G-Shock. A G-Shock watch, I for whatever reason, find it impossible to destroy. And so, and they're not a sponsor of this.
They should be.
They should be. Yeah, this is like my second or third one. They last me several years. Same thing. I buy the same pair of shoes like every 3 years. Like I buy a pair of Solomon Trail Runners every 3 years. They're like Gore-Tex. So they're waterproof. They're great on mission trips. Kevlar laces. Except, man, one year I was in Haiti on a mission trip, and the Gore-Tex lace ripped through like the buckle. Like this second day, and it was the only pair of closed-toed shoes I took to Haiti, and it was a disaster. But I got a new pair when I got home.
Duct tape.
Yeah, I ended up doing something. I can't even remember, but that was horrible timing.
All right, well, hey, you ready to jump in this thing?
Yeah, here we go. Let's jump in. Parent seminars, right? Or parent meetings and seminars today. So that'd be a fun topic.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Cool. So this is important. I mean, you're going to have these meetings, and I'm so grateful for Sam throwing this out there, because I think this is something I know for me early on, I had no idea how to do this, and no one really talked about this. So other than the fact you needed to have parent meetings.
Yeah, and I think what's, you know, and to go back to Sam, you know, when Sam posted this on our podcast group on Facebook, you know, he said, "Can we get an episode on how you guys would suggest a ministry do a parent seminar?" And you know, the challenging thing about this is typically when you start doing parenting seminars, you are not a parent. You know,
correct.
People when you start having to do this thing, and so it's a little bit of a challenge early on. So, Sam, I can relate, and you know, Jody and I both have lived that. So, He and I just took some time to write some things down. Jody, let's start here. Let me ask you this. What are some ways you've invested in parents? Because we need to break, because we're going to be talking about a couple different things here. What are some things you've done as far as the way because seminars versus meetings, like what's that look like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's changed over the years, obviously, and different contexts have required different things. I think, you're always doing your meetings, right? So your beginning of the year meeting, we do a thing with our incoming 6th grade parent folks. And that one is especially more of a hybrid kind of thing. So it's kind of a meeting and seminar. You're always doing camp stuff, camp meetings. So a lot of information meetings, right? And then we've done some trainings, specific trainings at times. We have the biggest thing we've done, I would say, over the last few years is that we have done a parent retreat. And so we do like an overnight Friday, Saturday.
For just parents?
Just parents, no students. And
really?
Yeah.
Does anybody come?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we're not blowing the doors off on that thing, right? I mean, it's not like every parent comes. Yeah. But I mean, the first year we had a handful, and I was just shocked anybody came. And then the next year was a little bit more, and the next year was a little bit more. So it's been good. I think that the challenge there is for parents to find childcare, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So we do an overnight thing.
But if it works, man, that's cool.
But it's pretty simple, straightforward. We get them together, we play a little bit, and then I'll have a few topics that we want to tackle specifically, train, and then we let them invest in each other, which is great.
Yeah. In my culture, for the last 20 or so years since I've been doing this, I kind of can narrow this down to like just a couple different ways, because I don't really count, and I don't think you are either. Obviously, we have to have parent meetings for camp, for mission trips and things like that. So I don't really consider those what we're talking about as much as this is more of a how can we invest in parents. And so for me, that has always been just in a couple different ways. Number one would be like just a schedule specific topic meeting. Yeah. And often I've called those like youth culture updates. Hey, we're going to do a youth culture update on this particular issue, this particular topic. And, to be, fully transparent with that, I think what I've done over the years, sometimes that's reactionary to trends.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, if I think way back to today, I had to have a youth, this sounds so funny. I had to have a youth culture update meeting on beepers.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. I totally did, though. But I've also had them on Facebook and social media stuff, and and all that, right? So all that has changed over the years, and but very specific meetings. But the other way I've done that is, and this is one of the things that I want to really pitch as an idea for some folks, is we do seminar things tied to events that teenagers are already going to be present at. So think like a D-Now meeting, or for us, we have a big welcome to the youth group 6th grade retreat where kids come up on a Friday night. Well, what we do is we invite parents to that, and we say, okay, hey parents, come, and we do one session together, everybody. But then we do a breakout where we go, okay, kids, you guys are going to go play next door and do a thing. We have somebody come up and do that. And then we do a seminar training type time with the parents. Look, they're already going to drop the kids off anyway, so why not stick around and do something? Yeah, we do that as well. And I find that those 6th grade parents specifically are that is well attended.
They're hungry, man.
That's well attended. I don't have to convince them to come to that.
No, they're hungry to, especially like there's a high percentage in the room typically of this is your first kid through. So and you know what I mean by that? Like, if those parents that like their 6th grade kid is like their oldest kid, so it's like all of a sudden they're entering middle school for the first time, dude, they're hungry. They're and they're hungry for all kinds of information, but they're also, from a spiritual standpoint as well, they would need to know what they're looking at. And so that's huge. But that's a couple, and I think that helps with the attendance thing. Just trying to figure out and try to identify specifically how you're going to do that and be wise about that. So I don't think like saying, hey, this coming Friday night, we're going to have a parent seminar on Facebook, or we're going to have a parent meeting on Facebook. Your tried and true people may show up, but you got to be real strategic with that
Yeah.
as far as when you're going to do that. And I think you want to try to do it in a time where, number one, either their kids are doing something, tied up doing something, or, a Sunday night right before service starts or something.
Yeah, you need to tie it to a time they're already coming, not make it an extra thing. That's helpful.
So do you want to tackle the big elephant in the room, Jody?
Sure. Yeah, I love elephants.
Yeah. Have you seen the new Dumbo trailer? It looks pretty good, actually. I'm a Disney freak, right? So he's got big ears. Anyway, okay. So that should have been the intro.
Yeah, he's got big ears. Me or the elephant? I don't understand.
Okay, so here's the real issue. Like we mentioned at the beginning, one of the biggest challenges related to this whole thing is whenever you typically, as a youth pastor, start doing these things, you're not a parent.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare and handle it if you're not a parent? So what do you think about that? And you've got my notes, so don't steal my stuff.
No, I would say it's not only that you're not a parent, but even when you do have kids, you're a parent, but not a parent of a teen. So that's a big difference as well. And even once you become a parent of a middle schooler, like a 6th grader, for example, you're still not parenting like an 8th grader or a high schooler, so all those phases really matter. And so that definitely brings its own set of challenges. But I think you have to be honest with that. And like for example, and I know we're more talking about seminars than meetings, but I know when I first started, because I was 18, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had to have parents. So I would use that to my advantage and say, look, I'm not a parent, so I need you to be involved in our ministry. Because
that's what I wrote down. I wrote down something similar to that too, which is, I think a little bit of making fun of yourself may be wise in that moment.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, like in my case, I was a teenager, so like, yeah. You're gonna.
I think even when you're 25, though, you don't have kids yet. I think even when you're 28,
or look,
30.
Here's the other thing too, and I'll say this, and I don't know,
or maybe even 33, 34, and you just have toddlers. I think that a little bit of like when you have those meetings, don't feel like you have to be the all powerful expert. Trust me, parents.
Gosh, no, don't do that.
I'm around teenagers all the time.
No.
I understand them better than anybody.
And I would say too, like, don't feel the pressure to be that. Like, if you were working with senior adults, you don't have to be a senior adult pastor. I mean, to be a senior adult pastor, you have to be a senior adult. Like, you know how to minister to them. So you are around teens a lot. You are usually living in that world a lot, and so you do have a little more knowledge of that as far as that culture. Now, you don't necessarily know what it's like to parent a teen. Personally, but I think you have value to offer and to give, and I think you just have to present it that way and always be a listener and a learner in the room.
Yeah.
And what I know for me, like what I have found, and I do this now, and I am a parent of teens. I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I let them answer. And then, like we mentioned that parent retreat. Well, one of the big components of that parent retreat is getting them in the room and doing some discussion and letting them see that they're not the only ones struggling with that issue. And if I know parents, for example, that are killing it in a good way, like in a certain area of raising their kids, I'll have them share, not me. Like I'm gonna give them the stage and the mic. And I do that with our leaders. If I've got leaders that are really good at one area, small group leaders, when we do our small group leader training, like I'll hand that over. I don't have to be the one to always do that. And so I think recognizing that you're not a parent, be honest about that. And maybe, like you said, self-deprecating is helpful. So here's what I was going to say earlier. I was obviously a youth pastor very early on. And then my wife, Sarah, and I got married very early. And then we had kids early, like a few years after that. So I had 4 kids and had been married several years and been a youth pastor for over 10 years by the time I hit 30. Okay. But even having kids, 4 kids, being married, and having done it for how many years, there were still parents who never really saw me as, quote, an adult until I hit 30. And I remember having that conversation with Sarah. Like, once I hit 30, it was like I went to bed 29, I woke up 30, and suddenly there were these parents that were like, oh, you're a real adult. We can trust you now.
Yeah.
So I think along the way, you're going to hit different stages of that, and you just have to be able to navigate through. But the principles, I think, are the same.
Yeah. I think in that also, one thing that I wrote down too, Jerry, I want to add to this is, and it's all kind of, we're dancing around all these things related to the fact that you're not a parent potentially, and you're trying to do these things. You're trying to do these seminar, these breakout deals, is also keeping in mind that you need to be careful about talking down to parents. Like that just not you really need to eliminate, including bringing your frustrations of what you may consider to be a lack of parenting to a meeting like that, or to a seminar, and allowing that to come out. Because it's just, I don't think it's ever going to be received well. And you and I we're actually talking about doing this as another podcast episode at some point. This is on our list of ideas, but things that once we had teenagers, we kind of changed our opinion about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like it's easy to sit there before you have teenagers and have opinions, but man, so much has changed for me. I can tell you, with a soon to be a senior and a soon to be ninth grader. So many of my opinions, not all have, a lot have not changed, but there are a lot that have. And a lot of times I go, and so talking down to a parent in a meeting like that, or even like if you're dealing with, technology type issues, you just can't say things like, why would you ever? Or you should never, because you're going to have some parents in there that are doing that. And so you just have to be careful with your tone and not allow that to be a thing where it's like, again, that's all that attitude thing, So
I think if you can focus on being encouraging with your tone and your comments,
and
always.
They need it. And parents need
I think you have to realize this. So let me speak, if you're listening and you're not a parent yet at all, but specifically, even if you're not a parent of a teenager, we've joked a lot, like you're expert at marriage until you get married, you're expert at parenting until you become one. I think you have to understand that the vast majority of parents are carrying, like if their kid messes up, they feel guilty for that. If their kid's not doing it, they feel responsible for that. And to an extent, okay, they are, but not completely, right? That kid has to be responsible for his own actions too. Great parents can have really stupid kids. So I think you just have to understand that there's a lot of insecurity within every parent. And if you strike a tone that is talking down or condescending or being critical, not only are you adding to that guilt and shame, but you're losing a parent that desperately needs your influence in their family and their life. Yeah. And so totally. I think, look, every parent is making it up. We're all just making this stuff up and hoping in the.
Have you ever had that conversation with one of your kids? By the way,
I've
literally, and I don't do this a lot. I don't like reveal like inside info here, but Dylan, my son, would laugh about this because he and I've had this conversation every once in a while. Like literally, it gets to the point where I'm like, Dylan, listen, bro, I don't know what I'm doing. like I'm just trying. Okay, I'm just trying. So listen, I've never done this before. I've never had a kid driving a car before. Like I'm trying, and I know I'm the expert, right? I know I'm the paid guy, but I don't know. So give me a break and let's try to figure this out together. And I tell you, it goes a long way, and parents need to know that as well.
Sure.
But all that to say, let's not miss this part though, just to say again, if you're listening and you're not, I hope you don't hear us saying that you don't have something to contribute.
No, you have tons to contribute.
You do. I mean, so, and because you really are immersed in that culture, and a lot of the parents really are looking to you to help be a GPS almost, a guide through that as they're trying to navigate that stuff.
Yeah, and I think
so
too,
to help bridge that gap between teenagers and parents that are not immersed in it, that's the role you can play. And so if you can be a sounding block and an encouragement in that way, that's where I think it starts to become a really valuable tool. And a person also that as you're immersed in that culture, you're stumbling across articles, you're stumbling across things that would be an encouragement to them potentially or be informative to them. You're offering up your assistance with things that they find difficult, like how to operate Snapchat or Facebook or Instagram or whatever it happens to be that your kids are into. I mean, I'm telling you, being that to them is a very valuable resource.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, I think you have to recognize too that longevity is your friend here. I mean, obviously we talk about that. That's why we have this podcast. But man, when you can stay put for a while, and parents see you consistently investing in them and in their kids, yeah, dude, that's the win. You don't have to have kids then for that.
And big picture, one of the reasons why I believe so much in longevity is Jody, you and I both, and we've talked about this before to each other. We now know the value of still being youth pastors with teenagers.
Yeah.
And the way I talk to parents now is totally different.
Yeah.
It's just a different conversation, and I love it. But it only comes with age, and it only comes
hair.
with
or no hair.
It's like you don't get to make fun of hair. You don't get to make fun of my gray hair, bro. So yeah. But yeah, that's good stuff, man. Well, I've got tips. You got tips?
Yeah.
You wrote an article about this. We need to link to your article, by the way. But I've got some tips as well that we can maybe jump in here. Is that okay? Can we move on to some of those?
Yeah, roll.
About that?
Go for it.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, here, listen. This is huge for me. Whether you are starting out at this or whether you have been doing it a while, this is true for any parent meeting, any seminar thing you do. And honestly, this is true for really any kind of meeting you do, period, maybe with your youth workers or whatever. But here it is. Be prepared and be excellent. Man, listen, I'm telling you, don't call a meeting with a group of parents and get them out of their house, get them to come up to the church and not be prepared and not make it excellent. Don't have a moment where they all get up there and the room is not already set up. Don't have a moment where they get up there
and you're not there yet.
And you're not. Good grief. Be prepared and be excellent at it. Number one, because it's the right thing to do. Long term, you want to be that person. But number two, you're going to build trust with them over time if you do that. And it's going to cost you a lot if you're not.
Yeah.
So just, man, the little things. Put the icing on the cake. Now, you might think, well, the cake's the most important part. You know, and there's some truth to that. But I'm telling you, man, walking in the room, air conditioning's already on. Chairs are already circled up. Handouts are already sitting on the table or on the chairs. PowerPoint or ProPresenter or whatever you're using, if you're using something like that, it's already working. You're just able now at this moment just to stand there and greet parents. How are things going? What's been going on? How's Johnny doing? I love having him in my group. He's such an encouragement to everybody. Those moments like that, man, again, you got to think of it, especially if you're just starting out with this thing. You just want people to come the first time and you want them to leave, and that next time they're hanging out at an event and they're talking to other parents, you want them to be like, did you go to that meeting? It was awesome. He was so, that's the kind of thing. And I think it'll help long term.
Yeah. I think that you've got to recognize, it's important to recognize whether we're talking about seminars or anything you're doing, that you're either always building or taking away from trust. And that is that's your greatest commodity when it comes to parents. And recognize too that parents talk. They talk a lot.
Sure they do.
And so if you can use that to your advantage for sure. And I think that's great. Boom. I agree. 100%.
All right, what do you want to do? Do you want to pull one from your list or do you want me to keep going? What do you want me to do?
You just keep going through yours. And then then I'll give out some specific things that I do maybe sometimes that we do.
Awesome. Okay, well, here's another thing on my list. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they need sometimes. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want sometimes, but don't give them what they need. Give them what they want som but you can't always teach on technology. Because it's kind of like, hey, let's do a Bible study. What do y'all want the Bible study to be on?
Snap face.
Revelation.
Revelation.
No, anytime you ask, like, I feel like that's such a parents just, and to be fair, they do need help and assistance in that. And it is ever changing. So make sure that you're not just doing it on technology, but that you are finding other ways, other topics as well, to be an encouragement, to them.
Yeah, and I would say I really have found parents appreciate very much tools that you can give them. So sometimes, like, knowledge is good, awareness is good, but give them like some practical tools in that. So whatever that is, if it's technology, for example, maybe it's a way to manage that, or to how to keep track of that, or sometimes it's here's how you follow your own kid, to know what they're doing. But whatever that is, give them some, like, something to walk away with that makes it, give them an easy win in the parent world.
Yeah, I mean, those tools, resources, things like that you can point them to.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
Yeah,
was on my list for sure. And I think part of that also is by giving them tools, you're providing and resources, you're giving them the ability to also learn on their own.
Yeah.
And if there is a way that I kind of make fun of parents at times in these settings in a fun way. Now, granted, again, 47 kids in my ministry that are my kid, that are teenagers. I've earned the right a little bit for some of this, but I do poke fun at them a lot for not Googling things more often.
Yeah.
But again, you got to know your place in that, and if you can get away with that. But I do think there's something to say about whatever you're teaching your thing on, that you're also equipping them to learn on their own. But some of it may be that you have to give them tips on how to do that. I'll listen. Let's talk technology for a minute. Jump off that for a second. It does blow me away that parents are struggling with that as much as they are. And I'm, again, just being fully transparent. It bugs the heck out of me that a parent would say, "I just don't understand Snapchat. I don't know what it is." Because I want to get, well, have you taken the time before you told your kid they could get it?
Right.
To Google, what is Snapchat? Because there are tutorials, there are articles galore. It may scare you to death. But, there's stuff out there for it, right? So that is hard. But again, I'm not going to talk down to parents about that. I may poke fun at it a little bit, since I can, because I've been where I'm at for so long. But I want to tell them I just want to give them a tip. Hey, guys, and also you can Google that. You can Google what is Snap. There's some great tutorials. Hey, you want to know how to turn off Safari on your kid's iPhone? There's a tutorial on that, on how to do that. But just teach them how to learn. But not only that, point them to, if there are websites that you find are super informative, that would help with that. Let them know about those things. They're huge.
Yep. And there's things too that you can leverage. Man, if you can in that moment, if you can open up your phone and screen share that to the screen, walk through and show them how to do that. Make it easy. Don't just explain a lot of things. That's helpful. You can also do like videos. We've talked about that before, with like youth leader trainings and stuff that maybe it's such that you're going to do it ahead of time, or you're going to do it and then send that out using something like ScreenFlow or Camtasia or something, where you're just walking through that. That's good too. That also helps if you're worried about them attending it, or even if you do it and you just feel like it's not, you can always send that out afterwards. But
yeah, 100%.
Walking them through that.
Problem. I think we mentioned this briefly, but I don't know if we did or not. Maybe I dreamed we did. Here's another tip though. Jody, have you done panel discussions of any kind? I think you mentioned that a minute ago, that sometimes you get other parents involved.
Yeah. We
I
do
think
it at
a
our
great
parent
tip
retreat.
for seminars and is to get some of those people in the church that people respect, maybe even some empty nesters that people respect, and do some type of panel discussion where you get a few people up there that can really speak to that. And maybe even if there's someone in your area, your community that is an expert on a particular topic that they could bring in. Maybe you are doing a welcome to the youth group 6th grade retreat and parents are a little freaked out about what that's going to look like. What would it look like to have the principal come in? If say that the principal of the school is a Christian and you could pull some strings to get them up there, even if not, maybe, I mean, you might still, just so they can pick the brain about some stuff. Panel discussions that are super awesome. And I think also if you are a guy listening, let me just encourage you to don't just get guys up there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because there are some girl issues, man, that you got no business.
Yeah.
Discussing.
Well, here's what's beautiful about the panel. Okay. That maybe you're listening and you don't realize. If you have somebody who's quote unquote an expert that comes on as a panel in a panel discussion of a meeting that you're hosting or leading, all of the authority and the expertise that person has as a panel is going to be naturally assumed and attributed to you by the parents in the room. Like, it's beautiful. They don't assume that you know everything, but you suddenly in their mind kind of rise to that level because that person is on that panel or sharing or teaching that seminar for you, kind of underneath that authority.
And they might could say something potentially controversial that you might not get away with saying.
That's right.
They might be able to say something's crazy, and you may not want to say something's crazy.
Absolutely. So that's beautiful. That is a powerful tool in the arsenal that I think, from what I've seen and people that I talk to in youth ministry, largely goes underused.
No doubt. Okay, here we go. This one's massive. This is probably I should have done first. It's gold. This is gold right here. You ready for some gold, Jody?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what's gold. I just took the last sip of my IBC root beer. So for Father's Day, I was given some IBC root beer. Son, do you like IBC root beer? Do you like root beer?
Yeah. Is it in a can or a bottle?
You offend me with that question.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because I don't know whether I should be proud of you.
Do they even if they make IBC root beer in a can, that's a tragedy.
I've never seen it in a can. Never seen it in a can.
That'd be terrible.
I'm just picturing you huddled in your basement with the lights out because the heat is, the air's broken. In like a tank top kind of thing with an IBC root beer.
You just nailed me totally. No, that's not the case at all. So, yeah. Okay. All right, here, this is gold. You ready for this? Get off track. Lay out ground. So at the beginning of your meeting, parent seminar type meeting, parent youth culture update, whatever you decide to call this thing. Lay out some ground rules in a fun, respectful way. Now, here's what I mean. And this allows you to gently nudge parents not to be overbearing in the conversation or to big talk too much. And also reminds them of confidentiality. So let me tell you a couple things that I say, for instance. Number one is I try to remind them, and I use an old example of a mom who did some really dumb stuff in a meeting one time about Facebook, and her kid had one she didn't even know about. But I just kind of say, hey, listen, folks, we're all in this together. Let's try to be careful about being too over opinionated about certain things, because we're all from all different walks of life. So let's respect one another. So I just mentioned that. But then I also, talk about, hey, and let's remember that all of our kids, like, we all know each other's kids. So let's commit that we're not going to go home and go, well, Johnny's parents, they don't let their kid touch a phone until whenever, or they don't let their kid whatever, So just remind everybody, hey, let's treat this with confidentiality. Now, obviously we can't guarantee that's going to happen, but I think it's okay to say it out loud. And then I'll tell you, as a parent of a teenager, I also say, hey, and can you do me a favor and help me with my parents? With my kids as well, by not using them as an example. And it is harder these days because I have to be careful about giving examples for my kids, because some of the parents in the room know them, and their kids hang out with my kids. And so I don't want it to be a deal like, well, Dylan can only be on his phone till 10 o'clock or whatever, So we're going to be careful with that. But I'm telling you, laying out some ground rules, you have to make them up according to your culture, your deal. But just talking, hey, before we get started, let's go over some ground rules quick, everybody, and make them kind of fun. But just kind of give a little, because here's the deal. You don't want that person like grandstanding in there. And I feel like every meeting's got one of those people, You just want to kind of try to nudge them at the beginning, not to overdo that, so.
Agreed. I like it. I have done something.
Did you break something? What'd you do?
I was trying to get to something on my computer here, but I can't. It's not working.
Oh, yeah? We're so professional.
Technology, man. I don't know anything about it. I need a seminar.
Okay, so do you have any other tips you want to add before we jump into, because I do want to take a moment real quick and go over to Facebook, because we threw a post up asking if anybody had questions, and Sam shared some, Scott Osborne shared some, so I want to jump into those real quick.
So there's a couple things that I always do, that I make sure I always do, whether we're talking a meeting or a seminar, okay? And I think these are really important. I always take a moment to briefly cast and share like the overall vision for the ministry. I think the more you can do that, the better. It gets people to understand what it is you're accomplishing, what it is you're about. The more often they hear that, the more they trust you, the more they trust your ministry. And so if it's a seminar specifically, what I'll try to do also is point back to how that is found and supported in the ministry. But I want them to understand that kind of stuff. If it's a meeting, like a beginning of the year meeting or camp meeting, whatever, obviously you're going to give them important dates and that kind of stuff. And so that's there. I always, even in the seminars too, always remind parents how they can stay informed with what's going on. Anytime I have an audience with parents, I want to encourage them to know how they can stay in the loop, because one of the biggest criticisms I think you'll ever get from parents is that they didn't know something was happening, even though you feel like you've done a ton to communicate that. So I always just try to remind them. So maybe when I'm doing those rules, or at the beginning or at the end of it, if it's a seminar type thing, I'm going to remind them, hey, here's how you can find out, stay in the loop of what's going on, and not just that.
Yeah, I like that. Jody, that did remind me too, and if I could jump in just for 1 second, it made me think of one I didn't write down, but I do think it's super important that in the midst of that, while you're doing that type of stuff, that you also say the words out loud. Hey, and listen, guys, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
If I can help you in any way, call my cell or email me. If you need help with something, I'm happy to do it. And don't feel like you're bugging me, because you're not. I want to help you. Some parents just feel like you've got so much to do.
Yeah.
Well, let's get real about that, just reminding them, hey, if you need help, there are no dumb questions. I'm happy to help you work through some of that stuff. So let me know. So yeah.
There's a couple things off the front that I do, like in a meeting. Okay. So I know we're primarily talking about seminars, but I think thinking of parent meetings, that a lot of people don't necessarily do, is I ask parents to join a parent prayer team. So I just print out a calendar, 31 days on it, and I ask them to sign up to pray for me and for the students in the ministry on a certain day of the month, each month. And so, I always, when I'm talking to youth pastors about that, I say, man, how different would you approach your ministry, and how different would your ministry be if you knew that every day of the month you had several parents praying for you? Like that, the issue, whatever that is that you find yourself having to deal with, whatever day that's super hard, to be able to know that you've got folks that prayed for you that day, and that they're parents. I mean, that's huge for me. And, a parent that you have in your ministry who's praying for you, that is a parent who supports you. And so I think I try to do that at the beginning. And then we've talked about this. We even talked about this recently on the Facebook group, but like obviously recruiting parents to help and serve in your ministry. And I would think through that, like we were talking about, I think I usually call it the welcome wagon, but you had a good point to add that too, of having folks beforehand. So like, if it's a camp or a whatever retreat trip, mission trip that you're leaving, a trip you're doing, having maybe some dads that sign up to come early and help load that luggage, so you're not having to run around and do it, or your other leaders who are attending that trip, I don't have to do it. Having a team of folks that are there when you come back, so that you're not having to go through. If you had to rent vans or rent buses, that you're not having to clean them out and get them returned, but somebody else can do that, unload the luggage for you, and you can talk to parents again, deal with them as they come. I feel like that's always really helpful. One thing, and I think actually I'll wait because I think I think this is going to get mentioned in a second when we jump into the Facebook questions.
Yeah. Do you want to hit those?
Yeah,
you ready?
sure.
So here's some questions here. How do you overcome speaking to parents with teenagers when you have a toddler or no kids at all? So I think we've talked about that
yep.
a lot. That's a good question. What have historically been some of the best parent seminar topics that each of you have done?
That's a good question.
Pagers. Is my kid a drug dealer if they carry a pager?
Yeah, so I think for me, we really try to hit like how to disciple your student, and we try to be really practical and look, reading the Bible together. And this isn't. I think a lot of times we feel like, parents feel overwhelmed and under-equipped to be able to disciple their kids. Even though I think as most youth pastors, we would all agree that the parent is the primary discipler in the home. The problem is they don't know what that looks like. So that I feel like is always really good and helpful for us. And what's beautiful about that is we've done it now. We've had several times where I've had parents come in and speak into that and say, look, we started doing this because of this seminar or because of this training. And this is the difference and impact it's making in our family.
That happens, bro.
So that's been good.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's super cool. I think for me, like, the two things coming to my mind is, I've really worked hard at developing a tech talk over the years, and it's just morphed into what it is now. But the stuff that we do for our 6th grade breakaway, as far as some of the things we cover in that conversation about what it's going to be like for your kid to be a teenager now, and some of the things we just point to and say, hey, be prepared for this. I mean, I think some of that stuff is really good. And some of those discussions we have. So I think those are huge because parents are you're just meeting parents where they are.
Yeah. Now, is that breakaway, is that like an overnight thing? Is that like an away trip, or is that
Yeah. So I try to do it before Promotion Sunday. We call it Promotion Sunday. So we promote at the end of summer. That means the new 6th graders are coming up. So before that Sunday takes place, the weekend it's happening on Friday night and Saturday till about 3:00. But it's not a spend the night thing. Kids spend the night wherever.
Okay, so they come and they go home and they come back.
We do it all up at the church intentionally, though, in the room that they're going to be in.
Cool.
So that they can get a taste of that for the first time. And, side note there, they've not been able to experience it yet. We're super protective of our youth room in the sense of like all the fun stuff that we do in there.
Yeah.
We want kids to look forward to that. And so they've not been able to play 9 square and foosball and all those things yet because we've grown into that.
That's hard in some contexts.
I'm not saying that it's easy every context, okay? But, for us, it just works, and we're able to protect that. Now, people still use our room like crazy, but they don't use my ping pong table, and they don't use our air hockey machine, like some of that stuff that we have set out. But now I don't just say, no, you can't use it, you might break it. No, I say, hey, listen, I cast a vision there. But so those kids can come in and experience that for the first time, Friday night, Saturday, and man,
that's cool.
Good. So, and parents come only on Friday night, and it's awesome, so much fun. And we do some fun parent games on stage, with the kids, give away stuff. It's amazing. Cool. So, let's see. How can you make sure we're not just giving parents information like Jody does? It is
no joke.
How can we focus on building relationships with parents instead? Well, again, I think it's super important that you're there early, and I think that you're there on time, and that you're intentionally having those moments of conversation. The other thing is, in the middle of a parent seminar, again, don't feel like you're so much the expert. You've got your 10 things you're going to talk about, and you don't allow parents to talk about things. I just happened to have taught this past Sunday in a parents class, and I did this whole thing that I do on parenting to the last arrow. It's a thing inspired by Erwin McManus's book. And in that conversation, though, I talked about, I give them time to talk with each other, and that causes, relationships to get built there. So I think that part is huge. And I don't think, Jody, there's anything wrong with you. I was joking with you about that information thing, but and you probably know this already. I know you well enough to know that you are limited.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure.
You're not turning it into a parent meeting, for an event meeting kind of thing. You're just saying, hey, here's some.
If I have an audience with parents, though, I want to make sure I'm leveraging it. I want to be mindful of the time.
No, I'm tracking you.
But because those same parents, like, you're going to get some parents that come to a seminar that don't really care to come to the parent meeting. And so,
this was big. My ministry has a lot of students with unbelieving parents. How do you capture them for a parent seminar? Man, I'm not expert on this one at all. Do you have a lot of unbelieving parents? You feel
I don't now. I have in the past.
I currently don't.
I'll tell you how I've done. Okay.
I've got theories on this question, but
I think the topic matters.
You have to just. Okay, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I think,
and
you've
title of your topic matters.
And I think also they can't all be churchy. Like, you can't only do things. Again, if you got unbelieving parents rolling in there and you're saying disciple your kids, they're going.
Yeah, they're not coming.
Talking about.
But if you do a topic, for example, and I don't know, your church may be okay with this, it may not, but having to navigate, like current cultural issues you're seeing. Maybe you're talking about, the transgender stuff. What do you do with that? You've got. I mean, I know we're dealing with that. And or things that parents are trying to, like, gosh, they didn't deal with that as a parent when they were a teenager. They didn't have to deal with that.
I will say this, Sam asked that question, Sam, and if you happen to be listening, here's one tip that just came to my mind that I think there may be some wisdom to this. I would connect with the parents that are believers. If you're having that meeting and you really target unbelieving parents and you think you're going to get some of them, I would cast vision to your believing parents, helping them to know that you guys may get a little off topic. You may get a little, non-spiritually focused at times, because you're just trying to reach those folks where they are. And also cast vision for them to be an encouragement and get to know and partner with some of those folks. Yeah. What a great way potentially for some of these folks to get to know.
I mean, I'm thinking that it would be, I'm thinking if I was doing a parenting seminar for a large group of unbelieving parents, I would be reaching out to local biblical counselors that I know and having them come in and lead some of that stuff. And it would be uber practical. Because you're trying to walk them back to you. How I get unbelieving parents to a meeting, not necessarily a seminar, but a meeting, is I tell them how to save money. That's my pitch. If you come to this meeting, I will tell you how to save money this year in youth ministry. And because we set for us, like for camp, specifically for camp, we give like a discount if they sign up a certain point, early bird. So I just tell them, hey, I'm going to teach you how to, if you'll come to this parent, you're going to learn how to save some money. That'll get every parent in the room. Man, they'll show up for that.
Final question on the Facebook group here is, what is the best setting for a parent gathering? Disney. Okay, that's not going to work. No, listen, I think, I don't know about the best setting. Obviously, it depends on what kind of rooms you have at your church, but I would just say this. Anything you can do to make that setting inviting, the way you circle up the chairs, having things laid out on the chairs ahead of time, thinking through what about the parents that are coming in later. They're going to have to walk in front of everybody. Do you have some seats in the back of the room ready for them? Do you have some coffee made? You have some cheap cookies at least, Some of those type of things that, again, excellence. It looks like I've tried.
Yeah.
And you may be sitting there you may be listening going, man, I'm on my own. I can't do all that stuff. And you're probably right. You can't, but there are people who would love to come alongside of you and help you with that. So get that person that makes coffee really well and get them to come up and help you. So, and I think as far as the second part of that question on the Facebook group says, how do you make it enticing for even the marginal parents to feel it's worth? We've talked about that a lot, I think, already. You just got to make it worth their while. You got to make sure you're doing it well. Because if you waste their time, you're going to lose them the next time.
Well,
and I had to learn that when it came to youth workers, man. Like when I do youth worker meetings, like I want to never, man, I can never use, man, you waste the youth workers' time. They're not going to want to come back. You got to make it work.
I think too, it's important. And Scott Osborne is the one that's asking this last question here. And Scott, I think it's important. And I don't know where you are in terms of parenting. It looks like you got kids in your picture, but I can't tell from this tiny little circle how big they are. Man, you are bombarded as a parent of a teenager with required meetings for school, for sports, for whatever. It was really easy in those early years to like be frustrated and bitter at parents making, all those meetings and not showing up to mine. So I think you have to recognize that, man, their schedule is crazier than it's ever been. And if I think if you approach it with the idea, like it sounds like you're already wanting to make it worth their while and valuable for their schedule, I think you'll be all right. The settings at the school meetings are terrible, but people go, like I sit in a cafeteria on a plastic seat to hear stuff I don't really even understand, but I'll go because I
hate school meetings. So
I feel like it's important. Or I'm in a theater, a chair that's broken and duct taped together, but I'll go because I feel like it's important and I need to be there. So a lot of that is just selling. I mean, it's just casting vision for those meetings and selling that meeting. You really have to sell that meeting. Why do they need to be there? And you need to really think through that. Is it just for information's sake? There's nothing wrong with that at times, but it can't always be that. How are you going to, if a parent leaves well-informed, equipped, and encouraged,
prayed over,
and
they're like prayer time, moments of prayer together, praying over them. I mean, those type of,
then you're good. I think the setting just needs to be, the setting doesn't matter as much as the environment. Does that make sense when I say that? And I kind of like what you're saying, like, hey, coffee, cookies, things are prepared, things are ready. You just want parents to walk in and be surprised at how much you have your act together. And I can tell you, because they're used to going to ones at the schools, which is not always the case. If you even remotely do kind of what Chris has talked about here, and they walk in, everything's done and ready, you're going to wow them from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Totally.
But that's a great question. And I think a lot of times we don't think about the idea of them feeling worth and value in their schedule. So you're already, I feel like, coming from the right direction. So any more wisdom to impart, sir?
I got nothing. I'm wisdomed out. I am approving right now, though, on Facebook, on our Facebook group. Shout out to David Best.
What a cool name.
Approved. David, you know what? He's the best.
Dude, you're talking about that is like some serious pressure, though, in life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Better than... I don't know if I can say this out loud or not, but I'm going to do it. We have a dentist next to our office.
I've seen this.
And her last name... This is a true story. Her last name is Hurt, Hurt. I'm like, what?
Mm-mm.
Like Dr. Hurt. Yeah. Thanks. Anyway, she's a nice lady, though, so I'm not like ripping on her, but she probably already knows that that's weird. But
well, cool. Well, so we'll put links. Man. I'll link to this article that I have on the blog on here, and
great.
We will we'll kind of type up a few of this stuff, throw this on the show notes page, so you can, because we mentioned a few things kind of throughout resource wise.
This is fun. This was fun. Good
again.
Stuff.
Well, at least one more time.
Yeah. Well, it's good, man. We got some great stuff coming up here, man. Some fun things coming,
Yes.
and we still have summer.
Gosh.
I've still got summer crazy happening. You still have summer crazy happening, but I love it, man. I'm still loving the stuff.
Good interviews
and
coming up
good
too,
times. And on Thursday, we're recording this on Tuesday night, and on Thursday I'll have a brand new AC.
Yay!
What?
If we've mentioned something in here and man, you're just not quite sure, or you have further questions, jump into that podcast group and ask them in there. That is by far the easiest way for us to connect with you, and some good discussion in there, but between just other folks too.
Well, and and so Joe, I just was I've got this former student, a girl who is a youth pastor in New York City.
New York City.
I know, right? That's from the Pace Country Sauce commercial. Mary Cameron. What up, Mary Cameron? If you happen to be listening after I recommended this group to you. But what I was telling her is like, you can definitely go out, and I'm not down. There's a place for those really large Facebook groups. Those are needed as well. So they're good, but there's also something to say about being in a group that's just a small group of people that are kind of like-minded, and where you can ask a question that you're not going to have 8,000 people looking at it, So, join our group, man. We'd love to have you. Good times, man. Jody, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, it's good. We'll do it again for sure. Hopefully your AC gets fixed quickly. Hey, thanks everybody for listening today. Be sure to head over to the show notes page, thelongerhaul.com/episode 064, and check out all the links there and the resources that we are throwing out. Also, again, just a reminder, make sure you subscribe to the show if you enjoy it. It's a lot of fun for us to do, but only if people listen. So we appreciate you listening on that. And I think that about do it for today. Yeah.
That's it. Later.
Cool. All right. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast at www.thelongerhaul.com.